There's a woman in a Texas prison, and one day she pulled a book off her boyfriend's shelf, the same boyfriend whose abuse she had learned to survive. She opened it just to pass the time, and then she stopped breathing for a second, because the pages weren't about strangers. They were about her. Move by move, page by page, the book was describing the exact things this man had been doing to her for years, the way he isolated her, the way he made her doubt her own memory, the way every kind thing he did turned out to have a hook in it. It was all written down, in order, like a recipe. She read the whole thing. She more or less memorized it. And later, she told the author it saved her life. She didn't get free by fighting back harder. She got free because, for the first time, she could see the moves while they were happening. She could name them. And a move you can name is a move that stops working on you. Now, you're probably thinking she must have been naive to end up there. Let me stop you, because that's the whole trap. The man who wrote that book says something like 95% of the messages he gets are not from schemers. They're from gentle, trusting, ordinary people who got taken and never saw it coming. That's not a bug. These tricks are built to feel invisible. They're designed so that when they work on you, it feels like your own idea. You can't block a punch, you can't see. And this is not some rare thing that happens to other people. In 2024 alone, Americans reported losing $823 million to romance scams. Not a typo. 800 million in 1 year from people who thought they were in love. And it isn't only romance. A 75-year-old Texas widower, Leonard Licht, lost $2.7 million to a fake investment run by someone who was very warm to him, right up until the money was gone. So, here's my promise for the next 40 minutes. By the end of this video, you are going to feel the 5 most common moves the second someone starts running them on you. I read all 48 laws in this book, so you don't have to become a monster to stop getting played. You're going to get her eyes. That's the deal. And there's one more thing I'm holding for you. Near the end, I'm going to give you one finding. 44,000 people deep, from the biggest study ever done on people who use these tactics on purpose. Every fan of this book hates where it lands. I'll hand it to you before we're done. Stay for it. So let's name the enemy. Because it isn't a person. The enemy is the invisible move. Influence built so carefully that you feel it as your own choice. That's the whole game. And here's the one line I want you to hang on to for the rest of this. A move only works until it has a name. The second, you can point at it and go, oh, that's the free gift thing, or that's the silence thing. It loses its power over you. Naming is the off switch. Same way you can't be sold the timeshare once you've heard yourself say the words, today only, just for you. Now, this book, it's called The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene, published back in 1998. And it has the strangest reputation of almost any book alive. It's a favorite of rappers and CEOs and athletes, and it is one of the most banned books in the entire American prison system. Here's the fact that gets me every time. The state prison in Utah has banned exactly 2 books in its whole history. 2. And both of them are Robert Greene's, this one and one other. They called them too manipulative to allow inside. Think about that. Of every book ever written, every crime novel, every extremist tract, the 2 they singled out as too dangerous for a prison are both by this one guy, which sounds like proof it's an evil book. But wait, in interviews, Greene himself pushes back on that, and I actually think he's half right. He points out that out of all 48 laws, only about 4 or 5 are truly nasty, the openly manipulative ones. The other 40-something are mostly just descriptions of how people behave. And he says critics love to quote the ugliest 4 and pretend that's the whole book. His own line in those same interviews is that the point isn't to turn you into a schemer. The point is to keep you from becoming a victim. But that's the author talking years later. And the book's own preface is colder than he is. It treats deception as a plain tool everyone already uses, no apology, which is exactly why you want the defense. The book means it. And that, right there, is the version of this book nobody makes videos about. Everybody online treats it like a manipulation cookbook. Use Law 16 to make her miss you. Use Law 28 to dominate the room. I'm going to do the opposite. I'm not here to teach you how to run these moves. I want you to feel them the instant they're run on you. Offense is everywhere. We're building the defense. One honest heads up before we start. There is one law in this book that is genuinely rotten, and I'm not going to teach it to you. Not, here's how to use it safely. I mean, I'm going to refuse it, on camera, and tell you exactly why. It's coming near the end. When we get there, you'll see the line I won't cross, and you'll understand why the rest of this is still worth your time. Here's the whole idea of this book in one honest sentence. Power isn't good, and it isn't evil. It's just a set of moves people run on each other all day, whether you agree to play or not. You don't have to run any of them, but you absolutely have to see them. Refusing to play is fine. Refusing to look is how you get eaten. So I built you a shield. That's what we're calling it, the shield. 5 laws, and for each one, 2 things. A tell, the visible sign the move is happening, and a move, the simple thing you do about it. And every single one comes with a real person it actually cost, the money, the years, the marriage. So this never floats off into theory. And a promise inside the promise. Of these 5, one of them isn't just for defense. One of them you can pick up and use yourself, honestly, without hurting a soul. It'll make you sharper in your very next conversation. When we reach it, I'll tell you flat out, this is the one you keep. If that sounds useful, tap subscribe. This is episode 1 of a whole series where I read the book so you can steal the good parts. Okay, shield up. Law number 1. Let's start with the exact move that was run on the woman in the prison. It's Law 3 in the book, Conceal your intentions. In plain words, never let people see what you're really after. Show them a friendly face, keep the real reason in your pocket, and because they're watching the wrong thing, there's nothing for them to push back on. Now I can hear the objection already. Great. So your advice is, I should suspect everyone, treat every nice person like a con artist? That sounds exhausting and kind of sad. Yeah, it would be. But that's not what I'm asking. There's a difference between suspicion and literacy. Suspicion means you're braced against everyone all day. I just want you able to read what's in front of you, the way you clock a stop sign without being scared of it. So let me show you what this move looks like when it's got money behind it. A few years back, Facebook owned an app called Navo. They'd bought it for around $120 million, and they sold it to you, the user, as a free privacy tool, a little VPN to keep you safe online. Sounds generous, right? Except the real purpose was the exact opposite of the stated one. The app watched everything you did, and Facebook used that data to spy on which rival apps were growing, so they'd know what to buy or copy next. A privacy app whose actual job was surveillance. Australia's federal court eventually made them pay 20 million Australian dollars for hiding what it really did. Now shrink that down to one human being. That's exactly how the pig butchering scams work. Yes, that's really what investigators call them. A man named Darren Lee helped run one that stole $73 million. The pattern never changes. A stranger builds a warm relationship with you first. Weeks of it. Friendship, maybe romance, real conversation. The money talk comes way later, and it comes gently. A tip, an opportunity, a special platform only they know about. You put a little in. The screen shows a lovely profit. You put more in, and the day you try to pull your money out, you can't. The affection wasn't the goal. It was cover. It kept you looking one way, while they emptied the account the other way. Lee, by the way, got sentenced to 20 years after cutting off his ankle monitor and running. That's the level of person on the other end of, "Hey, you seem interesting." And it's not always a stranger with an accent. Sometimes it's a legend in a suit. Bernie Madoff ran the biggest fraud in history, around $65 billion that simply didn't exist. How'd he hide it for decades? Borrowed respectability. He'd run the NASDAQ. His returns were smooth as glass, year after year, almost never a down month. And that smoothness was the lie. Real markets don't do that. One analyst, Harry Markopoulos, did the math. The numbers were impossible. He warned the government 5 separate times. They ignored him 5 times because Madoff's name was too shiny to question. So here's your tell for law 3. The stated purpose and the real purpose don't match, and there's usually a gift involved, something valuable handed to you for no clear reason. Free privacy, free affection, impossibly smooth returns. When the value flowing toward you doesn't add up, that's the tell. And here's the sharpest version of it. The strongest smokescreen is a good deed. Be most alert, not less, when the cover is noble. The charity drive, the generous mentor, the guy who only wants to help. That's exactly where the smartest operators hide. So weigh the track record over the friendly face. What someone's actually done over time tells you more than how warm they are right now. And here's the move. One question. Memorize it. What does this arrangement harvest from me? Not, is this person nice? People are nice. The question is what the setup is quietly collecting. Your data, your trust, your deposit, your silence. Markopoulos had the perfect instinct. Check the math, not the reputation. Which gives us the first line for your shield, and it's the one I want you saying out loud. When something is free and valuable, you're not the customer, you're the crop. Hold on to that harvesting instinct, because the next move is sneakier. It comes from the person sitting right above you at work, and it punishes you for being good at your job. Law 1 in the book, and it's the most famous one. Never outshine the master. Never let the person above you feel smaller than you. Dim your shine around the boss. And your objection is a good one. I had it too. So I'm supposed to play dumb, sabotage my own career to protect some insecure manager's feelings? No thanks. Right, and I'm not telling you to dim yourself. I'm telling you to read the room accurately so you're not blindsided. There's a specific moment where your competence stops reading as helpful and starts reading as threat. And if you can't see that moment coming, it can end you. Let me prove the danger's real. Jamie Dimon. Today, he runs JP Morgan Chase, one of the most powerful people in finance. But rewind. For about 15 years, he was the protégé, the brilliant right hand, to a mentor named Sandy Weil. Diamond was the operations genius. Together, they built the empire that became Citigroup, including a merger worth around $70 billion. Diamond was the obvious heir. And months after that giant deal closed, Weil forced him out, fired him. Diamond was 42. Why? Well, basically admitted it later. Diamond wanted the top chair, and Weil wasn't ready to give it up. The student had gotten too big, too visible, too clearly better at the actual work. Here's the line I want to land. Competence didn't protect Diamond. It marked him. And it isn't just boardrooms. Jimmy Johnson took a 1-15 football team to back-to-back championships and got forced out anyway in a credit war with an owner who reportedly grumbled that 500 other coaches could have won with his team. 2 titles didn't protect him. The fans were crediting the coach, not the owner. Winning too visibly on someone else's stage is the danger, and it can happen even faster. Michael Ovitz was maybe the most powerful man in Hollywood when Disney hired him as president. He walked in more famous than the CEO who hired him. 14 months later, he was gone. 14. He said he got cut out like cancer before he could even prove himself. And his exit package was around $140 million, which tells you how badly they wanted him out. He didn't fail. He arrived too big, and the knives came out before he'd done anything at all. Now here's where it gets useful, because there's real science on this. Researchers named Fast and Chen studied bosses who feel insecure about their own competence and found something sharp. A powerful person who secretly feels inadequate gets more aggressive toward a skilled subordinate. Your talent doesn't calm them, it threatens them, and threat makes them mean. But here's the gift in the study, that aggression basically vanished when the boss's ego got reassured first. Remind them they're valued, and they stopped swinging. And this doesn't need a $70 billion merger to show up in your life. You finally nail something at work. You share the win in the team meeting, and the room goes a little quiet. Your manager smiles, but the smile doesn't quite reach the eyes. That drop is the whole lesson. The tell for law. 1. Your win makes the room colder, not warmer. You solve the problem nobody could solve, and suddenly you're getting frozen out of meetings. When success should bring warmth and instead brings a chill, that chill is the tell. The move has 2 steps, and you pick, but gauge the boss first, because not every master is dangerous. The one to watch has a secure position and an insecure ego. That combination is the whole threat. A boss who's on the way out, a fading star with nothing left to protect, can't really hurt you for shining, so around that one you can let it rip. Now the actual move, and it runs opposite to everything your pride wants. Step 1. Feed the ego before you show the win. Hand the credit up. Make the master feel like your success is their success. There's good research that the smart play isn't pure self-promotion anyway. People who share credit while noting their own part come across as more capable and more likable. Step 2. If the chill keeps coming, no matter what you do, understand you're in a spot where competence will never be safe, and start quietly building somewhere it will be. Diamond didn't stay small. He left and went and ran a bigger bank. Best revenge there is. Sticky line for the shield. Competence didn't protect Diamond. It marked him. Know when your talent is landing as a threat, and you get to decide what to do about it. Blind, you just get cut. Okay, the next one is the one I promised you, the one you get to keep. The only law in this whole book you can pick up and use yourself without becoming a worse person. And once you see it, you'll catch it being used on you constantly. Here it comes. Law 4. Always say less than necessary. Talk a lot, and you start blending into everybody else, and you give away more than you meant to. This is the one you keep. Write that down. Now, staying quiet, that feels weak, doesn't it? Cold, like you're hiding something, or you've just got nothing to say. We tell ourselves the confident person fills the room. That's backwards. Silence isn't weakness. Silence is the one power move that costs nothing and hurts nobody. And it's often the strongest person in the room who says the least. Start with the proof it works. Researchers at MIT studied real negotiations. They found something almost funny. When a deal got stuck, the breakthrough usually came right after a long pause, a silence of 3 seconds or more, after someone shut up and let the pause sit. When they told negotiators to use those pauses on purpose, the deals got bigger and nobody's feelings got hurt. 3 seconds of nothing, worth more than 3 minutes of talking. Now watch what happens when you can't stand the silence. There's a study of doctors and patients. Real recorded visits. On average, the doctor interrupted the patient after 11 seconds. 11. And when patients were allowed to just finish, uninterrupted, they were done in about 6 seconds anyway. So the interruption saved no time. It only cost information. The people who couldn't tolerate a tiny pause literally got a worse picture of what was wrong. And talking too much can cost you everything. In public, Gerald Ratner ran a huge jewelry chain in Britain. At a fancy business dinner, he decided to be funny. He joked that one of his products was total crap, and that some earrings were cheaper than a shrimp sandwich but wouldn't last as long. The crowd laughed. Then his customers heard it and felt insulted. And about £500 million of company value evaporated. 500 million gone, because a man added a joke he did not need to add. In Britain, they still call wrecking your own business doing a Ratner. One more, faster, because it's perfect. Elon Musk once tweeted that he was considering taking Tesla private and added 2 little words: funding secured. The funding was not, in fact, secured. Those 2 extra words got him charged with fraud. The bill came to $40 million total, 20 from him, 20 from the company. And he had to give up his chairman's seat for 3 years, plus have a lawyer approve his tweets. 2 unnecessary words, $40 million, a lawyer assigned to make him say less. So, the Telfer Law 4. And this is the defensive gold. When someone leaves a silence hanging after you name your price, or after you answer a question, that silence is a tool, and it's aimed at you. It's built to make you uncomfortable, so you'll start bidding against yourself, explaining, backpedaling, sweetening. An interviewer goes quiet, and you nervously talk your own salary down. The discomfort you feel in that gap, it's manufactured. It is not your own need to speak. And the move is beautifully simple. Answer, then stop. Say your number, or your no, or your point. And then let the silence be their problem, not yours. Don't rescue the gap. Actually, let me say that cleaner. Don't rush to fill a silence you didn't create. Sit in it. Count to 3 in your head if you have to. One mirror warning, though. The move isn't always silence. Sometimes it's the opposite. The bumbling oversharer who seems way too scattered to be a threat. That's the disguise. Spilling harmless little details is a great way to get you to relax and start spilling your own. Sticky line. And it's basically the law admitting itself out loud. You have the right to remain silent. The whole legal system is built on the idea that saying less protects you. This is the one you keep. It defends you, and it never once makes you the bad guy. Quick honest aside before we go on, because I owe you this. In the book, saying less is really an information extraction tactic. You go quiet so the other person fills the gap and hands you leverage. So be clear about what we just did. We took an offensive weapon and reforged it into armor. On purpose. And here's the rest of the honesty. I don't love this book. Half of it, genuinely, is a paranoid way to go through life. Treat everyone as a threat, trust no one, and you'll end up alone. But this law, this half, this is real armor. Keep the armor, leave the paranoia. We'll come back to that at the end. Next up, the move hiding inside almost every favor anyone's ever done for you. Once you see it, you'll reread a lot of your own relationships. A friend calls, needing a favor, a big one, but listen to how it's packaged. You'd be perfect for this. Honestly, it's a chance for you. There's a little hook in there you can't quite name, and you say yes anyway, because saying no would feel rude. Hold on to that feeling. We're going to name the hook. Because that move has a number in the book. Law 13. When you want something from someone, never beg for mercy and never remind them they owe you. Instead, show them what they get out of it. Make your ask their win. You might be feeling something warm-hearted right about now, like this makes people sound cold, like every favor is secretly a transaction. Kindness is real. I'm not arguing that. Here's the actual rule. The deals that last are the ones that are honest about what each side gets. The fragile ones are the ones that hide it. So learn to tell the difference between a real favor and a favor with a hook. Let me show you the honest version first because it's gorgeous. 1997. Apple is about 90 days from bankruptcy. Actually dying. Steve Jobs gets $150 million from Microsoft, Apple's biggest rival, the enemy. And he did not ask Bill Gates for mercy. No, please save us for old time's sake. He framed it entirely around what Microsoft got. Keeping Apple alive kept the government off Microsoft's back for being a monopoly, and it kept Mac users buying Microsoft's software. When Jobs announced it on the stage, the Apple crowd literally booed. They wanted a rivalry, not a rescue by the enemy. But that deal held, and it saved Apple precisely because it was built on Microsoft's self-interest, not on goodwill. Goodwill tends to vanish the moment it gets inconvenient. Self-interest doesn't. The other guy still wants his cut, so he keeps showing up. Now the version that failed, and it failed on live television. 2008. The bosses of America's 3 big car companies flew to Washington to beg Congress for a $25 billion rescue. And they flew there on 3 separate private jets. So a congressman looks at them and goes, "You flew private jets here to hold out a tin cup?" The mercy appeal, "We're important. Please help us," got laughed out of the room. Rejected. So a month later they came back. This time they drove there in hybrids with detailed plans, and they reframed the whole ask around what the taxpayer gets. Jobs saved, suppliers protected, the economy steadied. Same money, same companies, but now it answered, "What's in it for you?" And that time, the money moved. There's clean science under this, and it flips what you'd expect. Negotiation research has found that people who coldly model the other side's interests, who think, "What does this person actually want?" do better at the table. But the people who feel deep empathy, who get emotionally moved by the other side, tend to give away too much. Empathy, being moved by how bad someone feels, is the exact channel a skilled operator uses to make you overgive. When somebody works hard to make you feel their pain before an ask, that's not always evil, but it is the doorway. So here's the tell for law 13. Watch which way the ask keeps getting pointed. If someone keeps reframing their request around, "What you get out of this? This is really for your career. You'll thank me later. This is a chance for you." When it's obviously mostly for them, that's a tell. And don't only listen for money or a promotion in that dangled win. Sometimes the payoff they're selling you is a feeling, the warm glow of being the generous one, the big-hearted helper. "I'm giving you the chance to be the hero here," is a hook too, and a good one, because it flatters you while it costs them nothing. And the flip side, if you feel yourself saying yes, mainly because of how bad they feel or how much they've reminded you that you owe them, that's the other tell. The move is one sentence you say to yourself before you agree to anything. Name what they get. Out loud in your head, doesn't matter. Just complete the sentence the person asking gets USK. If you can't fill that blank, you don't understand the deal yet, and you shouldn't say yes yet. And separately, know your own bottom line, because if you don't, a smooth operator will happily trade you something you don't care about for the thing you do. Sticky line for the shield. A favor that costs the giver nothing was never a favor. Real generosity has a price the giver pays, a gift that somehow benefits the giver more than you. That's not a gift, that's a move. All right, last of the 5, and it's the biggest. This one doesn't work on you one at a time. It works on you in a crowd. It's how scams become movements, how gurus become family, and it comes with the number I promised you at the very start. Let's finish the shield. Law 27. Give people something to believe in and a group to belong to, and they'll follow you anywhere. Offer certainty. Offer family. Keep it a little vague, so everyone can pour their own hopes into it. The chapter actually spells this out as 5 numbered steps for building a following. What I'm handing you here is me distilling those down to the tells that matter. You might be about to tell me you'd never fall for this. Too smart. That's for gullible people, right? Okay, 2 things. 1, nobody joins a cult. You don't walk in the door because someone hands you a robe and a manifesto. You join a feeling, a really good feeling, of finally belonging, of finally being certain, of finally being on the right side. 2, it never happens in one big step. It happens one tiny yes at a time. And I can prove that with one of the cleanest studies in psychology. Researchers named Friedman and Fraser went to a neighborhood and asked homeowners to do something absurd, put a giant, ugly, drive carefully sign on their front lawn. Almost everyone said no. Only about 17% agreed. But here's the trick. For a second group, they'd ask something tiny first. Just put a little 3-inch sticker in your window. Basically nothing. Everyone said yes to that. Then, weeks later, they came back and asked those same people for the giant ugly lawn sign. And this time, 76% said yes. 76 versus 17. More than 4 times as many. Same big ask. The only difference was one tiny yes first. That's the whole mechanism. Nobody ever asked you for the big thing. They ask for a sticker, then a slightly bigger sticker. And one day, you're standing on your own lawn defending the ugly sign. Here's how it works at full scale. A group called Nix EVM sold self-improvement classes, the kind that cost you $6,000 to $10,000 a course. By 2003, About 3,700 people had taken them, and it felt amazing. You belonged. You were one of the enlightened few. But the yeses kept getting bigger. Some women got invited into a secret inner sisterhood, and to join, you had to hand over collateral, an intimate photo, or a recorded secret that could destroy you. That was the lock on the door. You couldn't leave without your own secrets going public. Then they branded you with a symbol that turned out to be the leader's initials. The leader, Keith Raniere, is now serving 120 years in prison. Nobody signed up for that. They signed up for a sticker. And notice where all those course fees went. This is the most checkable tell there is. Follow the money and watch where the leader's own wealth comes from. The guru's big house and nice car. Look closely, and his lifestyle is funded by the very people he's saving. Their fees flowing uphill, then sold back to them as proof. See how successful he is? The method must work. But that wealth is just their own money, wearing his clothes. Now scale it up to millions, and watch how belief and outrage sell things. When Morgan Wallen got caught on video saying an ugly racial slur, everyone predicted his career was over. Radio dropped him, his label suspended him, and his sales went up. That week, his album sales jumped over 100%. They doubled, and he finished the year as the #1 album in the entire country. His fans didn't buy the music in spite of the outrage. The outrage told them which team to join, and buying the record was how they joined it. The scandal wasn't punishment. It was free advertising to exactly the people who already wanted to belong. Same story with the Nike ad a few years back, the one with the controversial athlete. People filmed themselves burning their own Nike shoes. Boycotts everywhere, and Nike's sales popped about 31% right after, and the stock hit an all-time high. Now, honestly, the sales spike faded after a couple weeks. I'm not going to overstate it. But the point held. The people burning shoes were never Nike's customers, and the outrage was free marketing to the customers who were. And that's the mechanism I need you to carry out of here. Your outrage is the share button. There's research on this. Each extra angry moral word in a post makes it spread meaningfully more. Roughly a fifth more per word in one big study, though later work says the real number's a bit smaller. And each negative word in a headline measurably raises how many people click. That jolt of alarm feels like you're being informed. Mostly, you're being sold something. It's just dressed up to look like news. So the tell for law, 27, is a combination. You're looking for 3 things showing up together: certainty, belonging, and an enemy. Somebody selling you total confidence. I have the answer, the others are lost. Plus a warm in-group that loves you for agreeing, plus a them to be angry at. When those 3 arrive as a package, always, every time, you're being recruited. Doesn't matter if it's a scam, a guru, an MLM, or a political account. Certainty, belonging, enemy. And one quieter tell, maybe the most dangerous of all. Watch who they pull you away from. A group, or a single person, that slowly moves you off your outside friends and family is making you easier to move. Because isolation cuts off anyone who might lean in and say, "Hey, this is strange. Remember the woman we opened with in the cell? Isolating her was the first thing he did. No accident. That's step 1. The move. When you feel that warm rush of, these are my people, and we are right, and they are wrong, pause and separate the 3. Is the certainty actually earned, or just loud? Is the belonging real, or rented, for as long as you agree? And who profits from your anger at the enemy? Follow that last one. It usually ends at somebody's bank account. Sticky line, and it's the darkest and truest one on the shield. A cult is just a foot in the door with better lighting. Same tiny yes staircase. Nicer production values. That's all 5. That's the whole shield. Now, the number I promised you at the very start. So, who actually uses this book? And how does it go? Let me show you the real receipts because they're not subtle. There's a woman on Reddit who wrote that her ex proudly mentioned using the 48 laws of power to manipulate me. Her next sentence, word for word, was, "Lots of therapy followed that relationship." And there's a whole forum where people discuss the book, and somebody posted, completely sincerely, asking for help using Law 2, which is about the usefulness of enemies. His question was basically, how do I make enemies? Should I try to screw over a friend? A grown adult trying to sabotage his own friendships because a book told him enemies are handy. That reading doesn't make people powerful. It makes them lonely and, honestly, kind of ridiculous. See the pattern? Bad use of this book is always careless, predatory, or zero-sum, treating the people around you as pieces to move. Good use is the exact opposite. Seeing clearly and staying clean. Same book. 2 completely different readers. Which brings me to the law I promised I'd refuse. It's Law 15. Crush your enemy totally. The idea is that a half-beaten enemy comes back for revenge, so you should destroy them completely. I'm not teaching you that. Now, Greene has a defense. In an interview, he said these laws are not for Joe Schmo, who's got a colleague he doesn't like. He meant the way giant corporations fight, not your everyday life. But open the chapter, and that falls apart. It applies this law straight to negotiations and personal rivalries, the small, personal court you actually live in. To be fair, its own words are about banishment, not murder. Crush means shut them out completely, not hurt them. But the chapter's closing move doesn't soften, it doubles down. Its answer to, what if the enemy you crushed ever plots again, is simple. Crush them again, no blinking, ever. And that's exactly why I refuse it. This law is aimed right at your actual life, and it never lets up. Refused, that's the line. Now, the number. I told you there's a study every fan of this book hates. Here it is. 44,000 people. 245 separate data sets. One question, do the schemers actually win? No. The people who scored high on cold scheming did worse at their jobs, and they caused more damage around them while doing it. The book's whole promise, scheme your way up, falls apart the moment you look at 44,000 people instead of a handful of hand-picked winners. And it gets worse for the schemers. Another study looked at trust. What happens after you break it? If you break someone's trust with an honest mistake, you can slowly rebuild it. But if you break it with a lie, the trust never fully recovers. Ever. So the manipulator's big win comes with the cost that never gets paid off. And there's an old famous set of tournaments where cooperative players were matched against ruthless ones over and over. The cooperators won. By a wide margin. Every single time it repeated. Which is real life, a repeated game. You see these people again. So here's my honest problem with the book, the real one. It's survivorship bias. Greene shows you the schemer who won and became a king. He does not show you the 1,000 schemers who used the exact same move and ended up fired, divorced, alone, or in prison. Because those people don't make good chapters. You're seeing the lottery winners and none of the losers. That's not a law of power. That's a highlight reel. So knowing all that, the tactics that fail, the seeing that saves, should you actually spend your own money on this book? Let me give it to you straight, both ways, because the honest answer isn't the one you'd expect. Read it if you work in a hierarchy and keep getting blindsided by office politics. Read it if you're dating online, negotiating anything, or investing money, because these exact moves are aimed at you out there. And read it, especially, if you notice you're drawn to people who seem a little too certain. The gurus, the guys with all the answers. This book is a map of how they work. Skip it if you're looking for a manipulation cheat code because we just went through the data. You'll lose. Skip it if you want warm, gentle self-help. This is not that. It's cold, and it'll leave a film on you. And if you already know these tactics cold, just read the chapter titles and the reversal sections at the end of each law, where Greene admits when each move fails. That's the honest part anyway. And if all this scheming has you wanting a shower, I get it. There are gentler maps to the same territory. Look at Getting to Yes for Negotiation, or The Power Paradox by Dashe Keltner, which argues the opposite, that we actually rise by lifting others and fall when power makes us cruel. But here's how I'd tell you to read the 48 Laws if you get it. Read it like the other team's playbook. You're not studying it to run the plays. You're studying it so that when they run one on you, you already know the count. Okay, let me hand you the whole shield in 30 seconds, so it's yours for good. Law 3. The hidden motive. When something's free and valuable, ask what it harvests from you. Law 1. The threatened master. When your win makes the room colder, your competence just became a threat. Law 4. The pushed silence. The discomfort in the pause is manufactured. Answer, then stop. Law 13. The favor that's really for them. Before you say yes, name what they get. And Law 27. Certainty, belonging, and an enemy sold together. That combination is always a recruitment. Hidden motive, threatened master, pushed silence, a favor that's for them. Certainty plus belonging plus an enemy. That's the whole map. That's the shield. And I'll be straight with you one more time because you've earned it. I don't love this book. Half of it really is a paranoid, lonely way to live. Swallow the whole thing and you'll end up trusting no one. But the half that teaches you to see, that's armor. Keep the armor. Leave the rest on the shelf. Here's your challenge, and it's easier than you think. For the next 7 days, I don't want you to run a single one of these moves on anybody. Not one. All I want is for you to spot one, just one, while it's happening, and name it silently in your head. Oh, that's the silence thing. That's a favor that's really for them. That's it. Because the person who can name the move can't be moved by it. Remember the woman we started with? In that cell, she didn't get free by becoming crueler than the man who hurt her. She got free the moment she could finally see what was being done to her and say its name. That's all it took. And now you can see it too. If this gave you her eyes, subscribe. The next book on the shelf is already someone's playbook against you. So tell me in the comments, what's the first move you catch this week and who ran it? I'll read them. Now go, shield up.